What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, it looks like we do indeed have a big-time state of play coming from Sony this week. In fact, after they made the announcement, we started to hear about some other games that could be there, and we're going to go over all of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Disaster striking WB with Suicide Squad going live for early access, only to be pulled back down due to one of the strangest bugs I think I've ever seen. And then we're also going to be going over some more unfortunate news when it comes to layoffs in the industry. This one costing Deus Ex fans the next big game. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps that a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Tekken 8, as it did, of course, launch last week on Friday. Seems like it's off to a pretty fast start in terms of sales, as we had some early indication from the UK sales charts, which we can see the top 10 posted up. This over on Push Square, with Tekken 8 at the top, then Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth at 2, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, EA Sports FC 24, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, of course, Hogwarts Legacy, Mortal Kombat 1, Grand Theft Auto 5, why not? And then Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown. These are all physical sales, okay? So none of these count digital sales. But the interesting thing is Christopher Dring over at GamesIndustry.biz mentioned that the sales here for Tekken 8 were more than double those of Street Fighter 6 during its launch week, which very, very impressive stuff there for Tekken. I know people would usually compare like the two, which one's better, because they're just fighting games, I guess. But really here at Tekken 8, it reviewed well. So did Street Fighter 6. But Tekken, to me, I'm noticing, just seems to be a lot of people are asking if they can just kind of get into it now. So maybe it's also pulling in a lot of newcomers into the Tekken franchise. But hey, awesome stuff to see here for the Tekken franchise, trending in the correct direction. I'm not in fighting games, but I was kind of looking at Tekken like, you know what? If I didn't have all these other games that I'm looking forward to or playing right now, I might give it a shot. And I still might. Just later on when I have some more time. Also, while we do have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth right around the corner as part of the remake trilogy for Final Fantasy VII, some have still wondered about Final Fantasy VI or other games in the series that could see remakes. Well, we do have an interesting comment from the producer behind the Final Fantasy VII Remake initiative. We can see this posted up. This over on Twitter from Shinra says, Kate says that Final Fantasy VII up to Rebirth has taken about 10 years. And if they were to remake 6, they suspect it could take double that. Anticipates the game would be bigger than the 7 remake project, and it's already got so many characters in it. Now, some of this has to do apparently with 6, of course, being more of a 2D game, whereas 7 was 3D on the PS1. So there would be a bit more work to kind of reimagine the world and certain events in Final Fantasy VI, but I have to say, that would be an incredible thing to see redone. And of course, they're talking about this in the sense of, we're going to remake it like Final Fantasy VII Remake, not like, oh, we're going to put it in HD 2D. Maybe that's still a strategy, or who knows, maybe down the road, they want to spend 20 years remaking Final Fantasy VI as a trilogy or something. I don't know. Let me know if you like that idea, or just do it as one game. Maybe it's HD 2D instead to make it work. Oh, and of course, it wasn't too long ago that we talked about the end of Volition. It was a very storied studio that worked on Saints Row, and the most recent one was well, disaster would be the best way to put it. However, it does appear that many of the veteran developers from that studio have actually come together to form a new studio. We can see this posted up. This is over on TechRaptor. It says a group of veteran developers who used to work at Saints Row Studio Volition teamed up to form a new studio named Shapeshifter Games. Now, apparently this studio, located in Illinois, is intended to be a co-development studio, as in they're going to work or partner with other developers and publishers to support them when creating one of their big AAA titles. So technically they could team up with a Square Enix if they could, Bandai, really EA, any of these big studios, or who knows, maybe Microsoft or Sony want to talk to them about their game. But it's at least good to see that some of the talent at Volition didn't just kind of get separated and thrown out there into the ether of gaming, or just leave gaming entirely. While Saints Row, I said, kind of a disaster. How much of that was on all the developers there, some of the developers, the publisher, Hard to say at this time, but I guess we'll keep an eye on Shapeshifter and see what they come up with in the future. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Sony and their State of Play that is set to air this Wednesday, in fact tomorrow, and we can see this posted up over on their official X account, where they say, tune in on YouTube, Twitch, or TikTok this Wednesday, 2 p.m. Pacific or 5 p.m. Eastern Time for 40 minutes covering 15 plus games. It's interesting that they say plus. Like, couldn't they just tell us how many, like, if does that mean there's 16 games, 17? I don't know. It's interesting to say 15 plus. Anyway, including extended looks at Stellar Blade and Rise of the Ronin, plus more from talented game developers around the world. To follow up here, we do have D Labs, who had a bit more information. Remember, they were kind of talking about some of the stuff that would be at this State of Play, as it seemed like things were getting uploaded maybe in the background and they had access to at least seeing it. We're expecting now Death Stranding 2 to have its title revealed there, Until Dawn getting a remaster, and now according to D Labs, we're also expecting Concord to be there. That, of course, being the FPS or first-person shooter live service game developed by Firewalk Studios. They joined PlayStation Studios last year after Sony wrapped up that acquisition. We don't really know much about it. This is the one that had that fairly short trailer. I just kind of showed what looked like a sci-fi setting, and that was sort of it. But we're expecting this game out in 2024 along with Stellar Blade, so you kind of have to get things moving, I would say, at this point, if you want to have it come out this year for all the marketing. We're also expecting now a VR game in the Metro universe called Metro Awakening. And then on top of that, we already know Rise of the Ronin, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Sonic Generations Remaster, Silent Hill 2, and Judas. So to me, I'm looking at this. One, it is good. Apparently, they're going to be showing PSVR 2 stuff there. Sony really needs to do that because it just feels like they kind of forgot about that headset, and now we've seen how there are just some third-party developers who are like, I don't know if it's worth porting stuff to the When you see that, that is a big red flag. It's like, whoa, okay, you don't know if you want to port your game to this platform. Probably means there's not much money to be made there, or some studios just completely going under and dissolving because they weren't able to get enough money out of that PSVR 2 sector with their game. So now looking at this, seeing maybe a Metro game and others potentially being there, along with a pretty healthy lineup of, as they say, 15 plus games total, 40 minutes, and games that we're expecting this year, seems like Sony is lining up a very good State of Play. Now, I'm not expecting necessarily any big first-party AAA games. Like, I'm not expecting Sucker Punch to be here, or Naughty Dog, or Sony Santa Monica, nothing like that. But with how Sony has positioned the PlayStation 5 for 2024, seems like there will be quite a few games still going there from third-party studios specifically, or just studios that are working on games that Sony is funding. I would call it second party, I guess. But at least in that sense, while Sony is working, I think, to smooth out some wrinkles around live service games that either needed more time or were just canceled, they're looking to fill in some of the blanks. And seems like right now with some of the games coming up, they're at least doing that. But I do still feel like later on in the year, based on what we see here at this State of Play, they will need to show up with some kind of large event that will focus on their big time first-party studios. For now, though, I'm expecting a good State of Play here. It's exciting stuff coming up tomorrow, so keep an eye out. But of course, Thursday morning, we'll run down the list and go over what exactly was shown. Next up, let's talk about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, as it did have an early access period of about 72 hours. You didn't have to buy the $100 version of a game where they just didn't send any review codes out, so it feels like a lot of people who want to review the game starting now, at least get that process going, they're just buying the $100 version. So hey, maybe WB is onto something here. They can sell 20 or 30 copies just to reviewers and make some money there. But it appears they ran into a bit of a snag, and it's a very strange bug, as people were reporting on places like social media, Twitter and stuff, posting images of the game being just beaten. Like, there was a bug that when you started the game, it would just pop the trophy or achievement or anything like that, saying you had completed the game and give you like the end card and show a message. So what they ended up doing was pulling the game down, as it was relying on their servers, of course. They can just kind of shut that off, leaving people with the early access period to not have access to basically the game then, and this is actually something they posted up yesterday, saying, "We're aware that a number of players are currently experiencing an issue whereby upon logging into the game for the first time, they have full story completion. To resolve this issue, we will be performing maintenance on the game servers. During this time, the game will be unavailable. We expect this to take several hours, and we'll update once we have more information. We apologize for the inconvenience." Now, they go on from there saying, "We have identified the problem that was affecting player profiles and are currently testing a fix. We hope to implement it and have the game back online as soon as possible. Thank you for your patience." And that's kind of where it left off at the time of this recording hours ago. So that's off to a good start for a game that people are already kind of writing off at this time. And look, even on top of that, people were able to play the game. They're just posting spoilers online of key story elements, certain moments in the game that, yes, do line up with the title, obviously. But it hasn't seen a good response online there as well. If this game gets in the 80s, I think it'll be kind of a miracle for them on Metacritic. I feel like this is going to be probably Rocksteady's worst outing, especially since they did, obviously, the Arkham series, and that was really well received. It just doesn't look like it's going to be a good one for them. So I am curious how it does with reviewers, but the fact that review codes for a game like this had not gone out, even with early access, is concerning. Not really painting the picture of confidence for this title, but I guess we'll wait and see because, again, at this time of this recording, we're waiting for the servers to come back up. So here's hoping there's enough time left in early access for reviewers to check it out and at least put something out before it releases on Friday. Next up, let's talk about, unfortunately, more layoffs hitting the industry and, unfortunately, another game that appears to have been canceled in a fairly beloved series, or at least one people were excited to hear would be making a return, and that is Deus Ex. This reported by Jason Schreier over on Bloomberg, and we can see the quote here from the article, where he says, "The Swedish gaming company Embracer Group AB is canceling a video game in the beloved Deus Ex series after 2 years of development and will lay off a number of employees as part of an ongoing initiative to cut costs." According to people familiar with the moves, Eidos, the Montreal, Canada-based studio behind the game, will instead focus on an original franchise. The canceled Deus Ex project, which had not yet been announced, was slated to enter production later this year, and said the people, speaking anonymously because they are not authorized to talk to the press. I'll leave the link to the article down below as they had some more details around the situation here. But yeah, just unfortunate stuff as we are seeing this from Embracer Group after that $2 billion deal fell through. I mean, Time Splitters that one hurt. But the idea of Deus Ex, even after 2 years of development being cut short, most likely it going into production, Embracer Group was realizing, oh, this game is still years and years off, and it's going to cost a lot of money to live up to the expectations we would have for the Deus Ex franchise. The idea of them going to a new intellectual property maybe gives them some more wiggle room when it comes to costs, and that's kind of what I figure is happening here. Obvious business decision, but the thing that's strange to me is we've seen a lot of reliance, especially recently as games get more and more expensive to create, on established brands. And while Deus Ex, I'm not saying is this incredible seller, I think overall, life to date, 14 to 15 million copies sold, and there have been a bunch of games in the series, it's still something people see it pop up and they go, okay, I know that brand, I understand that title, what do they have here? Now, if it's a new game, new intellectual properties are a bigger risk now than ever, so it is odd that Embracer Group would then choose the new intellectual property, or at least this time what we figure is happening behind the scenes, and them laying off an undisclosed amount of people at Eidos. It's like, man, it's just can't catch a break in the industry, and Embracer, this is just something that's been ongoing, and I don't think it's done yet. They were really relying on that $2 billion deal. It falling through really hurt them, and now they're just trying to figure out a way to stay above water till they can start releasing some of these games and at least making some revenue. So Time Splitters, Deus Ex, we'll see what's next. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, as we had a brand new trailer for what is essentially Tenkaichi 4, but they went with the Sparking name as that's how it's known in Japan, and they figure why not? Let's just globalize that title for it. But the trailer looks really, really cool. It is just Goku versus Vegeta. In fact, the The title of the trailer, we can see here, is just Sparking Zero Goku versus Vegeta Rivals trailer. And it showed a bunch of different forms of Goku and Vegeta as they're fighting back and forth. Of course, in their Super Saiyan forms, see Goku go Super Saiyan 3, there's Maj and Vegeta. But then they zoom out and they show off what is basically a character select screen of over 160 different characters. Now, some of the characters they filled in here include the first 24 characters they've revealed with Super Saiyan God form. You have Jiren down there, Great Ape Vegeta, Super Saiyan Blue, Android 17. This, so far, is really, really exciting to see how many characters they're going with here. Now, Tenkaichi, the way it works, all right, or Sparking at this point, is they have like 30 or 40 characters technically, and then a bunch of forms that they stack on top of it. All right, that's kind of how they get to these very large numbers that are, yes, inflated. Tenkaichi 3 had like 150 or 60 characters, something like that. So this is still in line with it. But it's gonna be like, okay, here's Super Saiyan Goku, here's Base Goku, here's Super Saiyan 2, here's Super Saiyan 3, here's God form, here's Blue form, Super Saiyan 4, you get the idea, right? So they're kind of splitting up characters into a bunch of different forms and calling each one a new character slot. But I also recognize the way the industry has gone. I'm a little surprised it's not just here's 80 characters and then we're going to do DLC for the next 10 years and here's 10 to 15 forms every time and we'll do 4 or 5 different fighter passes. I think they're still going to do that. Don't get me wrong. And I feel like we're going to start with 164 and who knows, maybe we go up to like 300 or something crazy, right? But I think that's still a pretty good starting roster of forms, and visually speaking, from what they've shown, looks good. I just need to see more about the gameplay and maybe elements around the story itself. Because yes, I know it's pretty much the same story we play through every single time, but it's still a lot of fun to go back and revisit that, even if it is a kind of a tried and true formula. Maybe they'll do something weird with some of the what if storylines. I think that would be fun. But right now I like what I'm seeing and just need to see more, and hopefully it's out by the end of this year. Otherwise, hey, 2025, it's not too far away. Grand Theft Auto 6 and a new Dragon Ball game in the same year. It sounds good to me. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, are you picking up Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? So 41% are just not interested. I do wonder, because I talked to some people, and the whole remake plot that's happened here has thrown some people off completely. I'm not interested. I don't care. But I mean, this 59% of people are at least interested enough to pick it up, whether it's on sale or ASAP. I'm sorry, I gotta pick this thing up right away. Day one, I gotta know what's happening, because it looks absolutely ridiculous. The key art's out there, you know, Zack is seemingly an integral part of this storyline. I gotta see what happens. So yes, they got me, but also the idea of them really, I would say, preserving, going all in on the physical side, where they just said, you know what? It's 2 Blu-rays, that's just the way it has to be to make this happen. A little nostalgic there for back in the day with the PS1 games where you'd have multiple discs. In this case, though, 200 gigabyte Blu-ray discs that you get in the casing, but I'm excited for it, and now we're, a month away, so I wonder if, I think maybe at the State of Play or a week after or so, we could get a demo for the game. Square doesn't really need it, but they do like to have that for their game leading up to release. Good marketing tool there. So, hey, if they want to drop a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth demo at any point, I'm here for that too. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Stacy, who says, I don't think 10 million Switch 2, whatever it be called, will be enough to avoid a shortage. The bar was a much lower upon the Switch's original launch coming off the Wii U. I remember people seemed hesitant to invest for the first year or so. Whatever is next will have many more people interested day one, especially if it features backwards compatibility with improved performance for current titles. That is huge incentive for many people to upgrade immediately. Yeah, I don't think 10 million is going to be enough either to stave off the scalpers or the resellers, but if they also follow that up 10 million and they have the idea of, okay, 1 per customer, we'll do a lot of the ordering even through our website, or we'll partner with different retailers and kind of have that in place as a way to mitigate one person buying 20 of these things and reselling it, then hopefully they can flood the market with enough stock and then kind of control where they're going so it doesn't feel impossible to get one without spending twice as much, as in, $800 for the Switch 2 if it's going to be $400 like I kind of think it is. So here's hoping Nintendo understands, as you mentioned here, that the demand is going to be, I'd say, significantly higher for this next generation Switch as opposed to coming off the Wii U, which was just a low point for Nintendo. People are ready for that next system. Over 130 million people are probably ready, or at least should be somewhat interested in your system. So make enough of them, Nintendo, please. Don't put us through that whole scalper situation for the first year or so. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Where's the Sony State of Play happening tomorrow? A bunch of games seemingly going to be there. Let me know which ones you're most excited to hear about. And then also, what about the situation around Suicide Squad? How do you think reviews are going to go for that game? And then unfortunate news there for Deus Ex fans. Do you think there's any hope for that franchise going forward? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.